videos or so, I've asked you to leave any questions you have for me to answer in a Q&A video. So today, I'm going to go through them all and see what you have to ask me. Okay, and we're just going to go in chronological order. First question from Easy is his name 88. I got a question. Is there any other sport, in your opinion, that can match the excitement of football? So many moments, so many legendary players. In my opinion, the only sport that comes close is basketball. Now, because this comment was left on my NFL video, I'm going to assume that you mean American football and not European football. I think that, so I am a sports lover. I watch pretty much all sports. And I really enjoy a lot of them. I personally think that every sport can reach extremely high highs of excitement, but often things are just baseline kind of meh, and I think that's true of most sports. Now, the unique thing with the NFL is the small number of games. That is one thing it has going for it. Every game does truly matter. But I think if you look at baseball, and it's like 150-year history, whatever it is, I think personally, even though baseball is not my favorite sport, I love watching baseball documentaries and baseball movies, because the highest highs of baseball, in my opinion, beat anything else. Even this most recent World Series, that Freddie Freeman Grand Slam, that is insane. You go all the way back to Babe Ruth's called shot. You look at the 2004 Red Sox, the Chicago Cubs breaking the curse, even something smaller, Cal Raleigh hitting that home run to send the Mariners to the postseason for the first time in more than a decade. And that's just baseball, and you have so many historic figures: Jackie Robinson, Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, Willie Mays. Nowadays you have Shohei Ohtani, Griffey, my favorite player of all time, Ichiro. Goes on and on and on and on and on. I think European football, what I call soccer, for most people, that's the pinnacle. And I'm a big fan of soccer. Watching Germany beat Brazil 7-1, that level of excitement, watching Messi lift the World Cup. As a Bayern Munich fan, when we did the treble in Europe, winning Champions League, domestic league, the domestic cup. So in my opinion, I think every sport is able to match that level of excitement if you can invest in it emotionally. I have the ability to watch any sport and immediately get invested. I know that not everybody can do that, but I do think any sport can achieve those highs. Question: what do you think the Seahawks and Colts should do at quarterback? This is funny because I'm recording this video the night that Geno Smith just beat the San Francisco 49ers. I don't dislike Geno. I think he's, in all reality, probably an above-average quarterback. But I don't think he's the solution for the future. Unfortunately, this draft class does not really have any good quarterbacks in it. So for next year, I would keep Geno, keep Sam Howell, the backup, and then look to draft a QB in 2 drafts from now. Maybe let him sit behind either Geno or Howell or a free agent quarterback that we signed to start, and then come in. The Colts, I know that Richardson has been struggling. I personally am still a big fan of Richardson. But, again, with the Colts, same issue. This is not a great draft class for a quarterback. So I think your only real option is to stick with what you've got. And that question was from Holt Aschenbrenner. We have a question from I'm 18 and balding. My condolences. As somebody, myself, I've been using my Noxidil and I almost said fentanyl, but that's not what I meant. My Noxidil and whatever the chemical is that makes your hair stop falling out. And I've actually reversed my hair loss. I have new growth on my temples. You might see a little bit of it there, some baby hairs growing in. So, there's hope for you yet, brother. But also shaving it off is a completely valid option. As a Seahawks fan, what would you like to see the team do in the offseason? O-line, O-line, O-line. The offensive line in Seattle has been an issue for a decade at this point. It is such a glaring issue. I honestly feel like our front office just doesn't understand how to evaluate offensive line talent. There's glaring weaknesses on the defense as well. But I honestly would not be upset if every single pick we used in this upcoming draft was on an offensive lineman. Because the thing is, with our general manager not being able to evaluate O-line talent, half of those picks are going to be busts, so you have to draw like 100 lottery tickets there. Ryan, 3626. Did you play any sports growing up? If not, what were your hobbies? So unfortunately, I did not play any sports growing up. The me of my high school years is a remarkably different person from the me that's sitting here today. So I was in high school 2008 to 2012 because I've officially reached UNC status. I was in high school as the emo and scene craze was coming through, and I was a scene kid. My hair was dyed jet black. It was long. I had a fringe that covered one eye. I wore jeans tighter than a diver swimsuit. I wore panties. And I did a lot of things that were self-destructive. I smoked cigarettes. I drank alcohol. I smoked other substances in high school. Listened to really loud music. Was depressed. My hobbies were mainly art. Artistic related, not drawing, but I've always been really into filmmaking, videography. So I would go out and take my camera and make little short films with my friends. We did lightsaber battles, Harry Potter battles. We did a black and white monster movie. Tons of different gunfights out in the woods, horror movies. Short 5 to 10 minute little things like that. So filmmaking was my hobby. I didn't get into sports until around my 20th or so birthday. The guy who is now one of my best friends, we were kind of acquaintances in high school. After graduation, he and I had similar interests, so we were talking more, hanging out, and he was on the high school basketball team. He's quite good at basketball. He convinced me to go play pickup basketball with him. And I got really into it, started playing basically every week, started practicing, playing more. And I always kind of watched sports a little bit. Even though I was a scene kid, I still would watch sports, even though my friends at the time would make fun of me for that. But I started really getting into it probably around 2013, 2014. I started collecting basketball cards. I started, because at that point I started having a little bit of cash in my pocket. I started going to games, and things like that. Question from Nick Gardano. What is your favorite place you have traveled to? For me, that's easily Japan. So instead, what I'll do is kind of give you my favorite place I've been in all the countries I've lived in, or been to, not lived in. So, the United States, I've been all over the place. I'm a big fan of road tripping. And this is going to be a very, very cliche answer, but Disneyland is my favorite place in the United States of America. And this isn't going to make sense when you hear what I say, but I suffer from GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. I always have a sort of constant underlying anxiety. I'm never fully relaxed. I'm always kind of on edge. I think that's part of the reason that I like ASMR so much. And I don't like taking medications. I've never sought any medication for it. I've self-medicated with cannabis to help me sleep, because a side effect of this generalized anxiety disorder is bouts of insomnia. And this isn't going to make sense because of the big crowds and cramped spaces, but for some reason, going to Disneyland, all of those stresses, all that anxiety just goes away. I don't know why. It shouldn't. It's a madhouse in there. But I feel my heart rate drop. I feel like that constant alertness is gone, and I'm just able to relax. I don't know why. It's not like I have any great memories of going there as a child or anything like that I'm remembering, but I just am able to relax there. So then I started going every year until COVID, and I haven't been probably since 2021 or so. In Canada, I really love the city of Calgary. I really, really do. I know some people make fun of Calgary, Alberta in general, but I find Calgary an absolutely beautiful city. I've been there twice. One time, I stayed there for a month. I stayed in a cute little loft there, within walking distance of the city. And I was 5 minutes away from downtown. I was a 5-minute drive to this beautiful river. I was an hour away from Banff, Lake Louise. Just an absolutely gorgeous part of Canada. Mexico, San Felipe, Mexico. I can't remember the name right now, but there was a little beach club that I went to. Had these cabanas out there on the beach on the Sea of Cortez. and we got these amazing tacos, chips and salsa. I loved it there. In Japan, there was this shrine we went to in Kamakura. You had to hike up a little bit, and then there was this tunnel in the side of the rock face. You had to go through the tunnel. You came out the other side, and you were in this beautiful shrine, and there was a cave with water, and people were in there washing their money, and there was this little bridge you could cross, and there was another shrine over there, and another shrine over here. It was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. So, that shrine in Japan. If you were to go to an NFL game, which two teams would you like to see play against each other? So, I've only been to one NFL game in person in my life. It was the Seahawks versus the Raiders. But I think I would like to see the Packers versus the Bears at Lambeau. If I could see any game, two historic teams, original franchises, tons of legacy, history, dedicated fan bases, strong team cultures. I think if I could go to any game, it would be, Bears versus Packers at Lambeau. And that question was from the real Oscar. Question. This is from Cherubic Ben 7110. What is your favorite Seahawks game? And if you could have any NFL player on the Hawks, who would it be? My favorite Seahawks game, this is a easy answer for me, the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos. I remember watching that game, so nervous coming into it, like pacing around the living room as the game started, unable to relax, like so nervous. I felt like we were the better team, but Peyton Manning made me so nervous. That offense was so good. And then the first half just started and going, you know the rest. And by the end of that game, I was drinking and celebrating, and yeah. If you could have any NFL player on the Hawks, who would it be? Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, I feel like having Lamar Jackson with his running ability, his passing ability, with DK, with Jackson Smith and Jigba, like, give him the weapons down there. He has K9, Kenneth Walker out there as his second option. I think Lamar Jackson on the Seahawks would be deadly. From Antonio Corsetti, 3222. What is your favorite brain rot term? I really like skibbity because it feels like it came out of nowhere, like it's not based on anything. But if I'm being real, I think my favorite brain rot term is gyat. I have to, it's so good. And I use it with great effect to annoy my fiance. Like, she gets mad at me because I just keep saying it to her. So it's either skippity or gyat, but I think gyat has the edge. Okay, what is your job, if you don't mind sharing during the Q&A? This is from Kyle Capoletti, 3702. Okay, so my current job, which actually today is my last day in my current role. I start my new job tomorrow. My current job is digital content creator for my company. is it exactly? It is. Right, okay, so I'm currently a digital content creator. My new role that I start tomorrow is a digital content marketing coordinator. There's not much difference, but that's the new job. My other question would be, which of the 4 major professional sports leagues do you like best? You could rank them from favorite to least favorite. Additionally, you could break that down into categories such as best in person, favorite to play, favorite to watch on TV, what's hardest, etc. Okay, a lot of parts there. I'll answer them all. So, for the longest time, I would say my list went NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL. That was most of my life when I was a more casual sports fan. Then, around 2014, 2015, I would say that it was NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB. Then around 2020, I would say it was NHL, NBA, NFL, MLB. And now, right now, I would say it is NHL, NFL, MLB, NBA. Now the thing is, I like all the leagues, I watch them all, but my interests, like last year, I watched a ton of hockey. This year, I can count on one hand the number of hockey games I've watched, but I've been watching a ton of basketball. Last year I watched like no basketball, so it comes and goes. Now, best in-person viewing experience, I think it's a two-way tie for different reasons. NHL in person, seeing how fast the players are moving, just all of that. I think NHL from that point of view is an amazing in-person experience. But MLB in person is like the best day out, I think, for like just going to a baseball game, like with a group of friends, in my opinion. From that casual social standpoint, is the best. Now, if you want to go and really pay attention to the game, NHL's the best. But if you want to go, relax, have fun, baseball's the best. Favorite to play, basketball is the only sport I am any good at. So basketball is by default my favorite to play. Although I do want to start trying to get into baseball a little bit more. There's batting cages here. I want to start going. There's also this sport here called Oztag, which is kind of like rugby but without tackling. Because I'm old. I don't want to, like, I have to go to work on Monday. I don't want to get tackled and be all bruised up. I've thought about getting into that. My opinion on which sport is hardest, I think of the major four, baseball is the hardest. I think hitting a baseball at all, even if you ground out, is one of the most impressive feats of hand-eye coordination in the world. So definitely I think baseball's the hardest. Okay. From Riley Bergen 5287. What advice would you give to someone looking to start a YouTube channel but doesn't know where to begin? I would say you have to do what interests you, or what you like. I started this channel because I like ASMR videos. Most videos I watch are ASMR videos. And also I like variety content. If I did a channel, let's say I did a channel about sports, it was non-ASMR, I couldn't do my GeoGuessr videos. I couldn't do my gaming videos, my whatever else, unboxings, whatever else. Because you kind of get put into a niche. But my niche is ASMR. And you have to be prepared to deal with putting up a video and not getting any views, not getting any comments. It happens to me. I'm lucky I have the audience I do now. I know it's obviously not as big as some people, but the fact that I have more than 1,000 people regularly choose to click on and watch something that I make, I recognize that that's really cool. But there's still sometimes I'll put a video up and it gets way fewer views than what I'm used to. And that used to really, really make me panic. But you have to be willing to deal with that, and so you have to like what you're making videos about and be passionate about that topic, because you have to be like, okay, if I make this video and nobody ever watches it, will just the process of me making the video be rewarding enough to me that I don't care if nobody watches it, because I liked making it. That's the first thing. So I think you have to find something that you care about enough to where you could make 100 videos that nobody watches and post 101st video. I think that's where you begin. You have to find your passion. This isn't really a question, but I've seen so many comments saying my voice doesn't match my face. I don't know what that means. This voice has only ever come out of this face. Question from Yuriko. Favorite NFL player of all time? That would be one Dan Marino. Dan Marino, I love me some Dan Marino. From Wyatt Romy 5040. What made you choose the Seahawks as your favorite team? I had the unfortunate misfortune of being born in the Pacific Northwest sports fandom. I was born in Salem, Oregon, moved to Portland, Oregon before I was conscious. And so those were the teams around me, Portland and Seattle teams. So those were the ones that I chose to root for. And all of them have let me down since, save for the Seattle Seahawks one time. From Regista00. What do you think the purpose of life is? Also, can you tell us a bit about your background, where you come from? I'll answer the second part before I answer the first. Like I already mentioned, I was born in Salem, Oregon, which is a very boring town. Never go there. Nothing to do. Moved to Portland, Oregon. Eventually, I moved to a smaller, rural community within the radius of Portland, Oregon, and I grew up as sort of half rural, half urban lifestyle. My house as a teenager was on a street with about 5 other houses. My backyard was all trees and creeks, and I would spend my days outside, wandering around nature, hanging out with friends when I could. I always dreamed of one day moving to a big city. I really wanted to live in a penthouse in New York City as a kid. But now that I live in a big city, I live in the New York City of Australia, I want to move back to the countryside. Growing up, I was a bit of a, a bit of an F up all through high school, and I spent more time messing around and smoking weed with my friends than doing schoolwork, which required me to take summer school and then online school and to even get the bare minimum to graduate high school. At high school, I was kind of directionless. Worked a dead-end job for a little bit, quit. Went through a handful of long relationships that all went nowhere. Worked a handful of jobs that had no room for me to grow. And I was just collecting a paycheck to blow it on frivolous things to try to make me happy. Eventually I went back to college. Later in life, I took it extremely seriously because I knew it was my last chance to do anything. And I graduated with honors. And I am infinitely lucky that the bad hand that I dealt myself early in life, not taking things seriously enough, didn't completely ruin my life. I'm very lucky to have a strong support system, two very loving and caring parents, which not everyone is lucky enough to have. And there were many times where I could have fallen through the cracks, but there was somebody there to stop me from doing so. And I'm only here now because of that. And the purpose of life, that is very interesting. I'll give you two answers, because for most of my life, I was agnostic. I didn't necessarily believe in anything, but I also didn't discount it. And I'd had certain experiences in life that made me think, maybe there's something out there, but I never gave it much thought. So, if you'd have asked me a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have told you that I either would have, depending on my mood, I either would have told you that life has no purpose, or that your life's purpose is what you make it. Do you want to go out there and be as successful as you can and spend your time earning every penny you possibly can? Well, that's the purpose of your life. The last year and a half or so, I've had a bit of a change in thinking with regards to all that. I think that there likely is some greater purpose in life, but I don't necessarily know if I know what it is, or if we're meant to know what it is. And I think that perhaps if I was to guess, the purpose of life is to try to learn and grow mentally and spiritually, to have a better understanding of the universe and maybe the metaphysical world around us, and how we connect to it, are a part of it, and how we are different from it, and how we can influence it. I don't necessarily 100% believe in this, by the way, but I do sometimes entertain these sorts of thoughts and these sorts of exercises. But I had a woman one time who does past life regression, so she sees into your past lives and etc. She told me unprompted that in a past life I was a member of the Knights Templar, the Crusaders, the Jerusalem and all that, but that I had broken my vow, and so that my purpose in my multiple lives between then and now was to repay some karmic debt to whatever higher power it was I pledged that oath to, seemingly the God of the Bible. But that this current life that I am living my debt is finally paid, so that this life will be one of spiritual awakening as my debt is paid. Now again, I don't know how much I even buy into that. I find that very, very difficult to believe. Like, oh, what a coincidence. I just so happen to be living the life where the debt has been paid, but it's an interesting concept nonetheless. Anyways, Lukuth714, what's your favorite movie? My favorite movie is Reservoir Dogs, Quentin Tarantino's first movie. That is the movie I watched that inspired me to pick up a camera for the first time. What's your favorite baseball team from Will Malone 10? This is a complicated question. I was/am a Mariners fan, but I struggle because the front office is so obviously not committed to winning and would rather press the nostalgia button and remind fans that the year 2001 existed to sell the 4,000th Ken Griffey Jr. bobblehead that actually spend money to compete while we have the best pitching rotation in baseball, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh. So I struggle with that. So I kind of at the moment don't follow an MLB team. I probably most closely pay attention to the Tokyo Yakult Swallows. Also from Will Malone 10, do you watch college football? Very little. I am, I suppose, an Oregon Ducks fan. They've been having a really exciting season, but I find college sports difficult to watch. I know some people really enjoy the high variance in play because of the lower skill level of the players. I personally find it frustrating. So I'm not the biggest fan of college football, but I will watch it occasionally. From Sal Simeon 6661, what's your favorite Premier League team? I don't really have a favorite Premier League team. My favorite European football team is Bayern Munich. But there's a few teams in the English league that I like. I like Portsmouth, even though they're really struggling this year. I like Brighton and Hove Albion. I have a friend who's a Wolverhampton Wanderers fan, so I'm always kind of somewhat cheering for them just so he's happy. And Crystal Palace. I always like to see Crystal Palace do well. I don't know why. I just kind of like Crystal Palace. Is there anybody? Aston Villa. I kind of like Aston Villa a little bit, but I don't really have a favorite if I'm being honest. This person asked me to talk in my real voice for a couple seconds. I will do it at the very end of the video. But I do have a vlog, by the way, on my second channel that you can go check out. Lil Flo 9066 for Q&A. how has it been living in Australia, and have you been able to visit the States, and what are your plans for the holidays? So, I've been in Australia since February 12th, 2023. A lot of people don't believe me when I tell them this, but Australia and the United States are very, very similar in a lot of ways. One thing I really like about Australia is how multicultural it is. So many different cultures, languages all around you, people, on the streets, all different. I come from an area that's very, very white. Most people I would walk past every day looked a lot like me. That's not the case here. Especially out here in Western Sydney, it's very multicultural. And because of that, there's so much great food, except for Mexican food. The Mexican food here is not good. I was actually talking to one of the finance guys at work today, funny enough. This Indian guy, and he was asking me about basically the same question. And he was like, yeah, we need to bring some Juans and Jesuses over here. And I was like, yes, that's true. I've not been able to visit the US yet. To be completely honest, my first, money got a little bit tight here for a while before I got this job. And so right now I'm just kind of getting my foundations back under me. And plans for the holidays. So my fiance's parents go big for Christmas. Like, they rent out a minibus, load the entire family into the bus. Everybody goes out and does some big activity. So our plan is to just go to their house and do whatever they say, and they keep that all a secret until the day of. So I don't know what we're doing, but it's gonna be exciting. Trick B. I have a couple. Favorite band of all time. And what's one conspiracy you sorta could get behind? Okay, favorite band of all time. For the longest time, I would say Weezer. And I've seen Weezer live more than any other band. But recently I've really been getting into Ghost. I love Ghost. Simon and Garfunkel. And Paul Simon. I've seen Paul Simon live. And I would also probably say Fleetwood Mac. Maybe. It's a tricky question. Now, what's a conspiracy I can sort of get behind? This is going to be somewhat off topic from your question, but as somebody who was like sort of into conspiracies in the early internet days, like 2007 to 2010 or something, conspiracy theories nowadays are so much like darker and weirder, and it just feels like it's not fun anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all like vampires, demons, our government's full of you know what, like all the QAnon stuff. Like, miss me with that. Conspiracy I can get behind. I don't know if this is a conspiracy, but I believe in aliens and UFOs. I believe in ghosts. I believe in Bigfoot. Like, legitimately, I'm not joking. I do think Bigfoot either exists or did exist at some point. Trying to think of a conspiracy that's just not like I don't believe the moon landing was fake. I think we went to the moon. I think Bohemian Grove is real, but I think it's not what people assume it is. Hold on, give me a second to think. Okay. This this is one I sort of do unironically believe that Avril Lavigne died and was replaced by Melissa the lookalike. On the surface, I realize how ridiculous it is and how unlikely it is. But part of me can't help but feel like it's true. Q&A, what is your favorite car slash SUV slash truck brand and model? So my dream car is a Mitsubishi Evo 8. I've always loved Evos. I just think they're the coolest car, and unfortunately at this point, even the ones that are beat to hell are extremely expensive, and you have to take out a second mortgage to get the ones that aren't beat to hell. So, yeah, I'm not really a big SUV guy. Trucks, I really want a Japanese K truck, just a little truck. Also, I think there's these diesel Volkswagen trucks, I think it's called a Rabbit or something like that. That's not it, is it? What was the diesel? Yeah, a Volkswagen Rabbit pickup. That is what it was. I always thought those looked really, really cool. And that's from Jaeger Bomb Legend. That question. From Speed Racer Enthusiast. Thank you for the great video. Q&A, favorite food / meal. A lot of people don't believe me when I tell them this. My favorite food is onion rings. I don't know why. I think as a kid, I had Burger King onion rings a lot for some reason. And I just loved them. And then now, you give me a great beer battered, crispy, golden onion ring. Oh, that's my favorite food. Now full on, meal. I love some orange chicken and rice. Just a plain cheeseburger with a side of onion rings. That's great. Tuna nigiri with some rice and sushi. Or excuse me, with some rice and miso. That's a really good meal. And a California burrito with a side of rice and beans. From Gumby the Fish, what is your ideal environment to live in, terrain-wise, and why? So preferably my ideal environment is a smallish town city, about 25 to 30 minutes outside of a major city. The small city would have 2 grocery stores, 8 restaurants, maybe a couple of bars, a barber shop. Just a nice smallish town, maybe between 20 to 40,000 people, outside of a larger city, about, like I said, 30 minutes away, with a professional sports team and a couple million people living there. Now, environment-wise, I don't mind the heat, but I don't like humidity. I'm sure you guys have noticed the redness on my face. I suffer from rosacea, and when it's humid outside, my redness gets really bad. I get bumps, it spreads lower, and I sweat a lot. In humidity, my face gets really hot. You see some redness up here. So I really struggle with hot humidity. Dry heat, I'm fine, doesn't bother me. Rain doesn't bother me. Cold doesn't bother me. I don't mind snow. I dislike ice. Terrain-wise, if I was in a temperate climate with trees, some water, maybe in a valley between two mountains, so the snow coats the mountains, but we're kind of kept safe from the wind and the rest. I think that'd be my nicest environment. From Brad Rose for the Q&A, what is your first name? So, I think there's a certain element. I'm not concerned really about being like anonymity or anything. I just don't, I'm very cautious about the idea of trying to form parasocial relationships with people. And I think if you don't know my name, it makes it harder to form those. I don't necessarily actively hide it. Some of my viewers have found it. Some of my viewers have found my personal Instagram account. Like if you scoured my videos, it is in there sometimes. I'll give you the first letter of my first name. It starts with a G. The G. From Luca Barbu LB9DX for Q&A. What do you think of Bayern's manager Vincent Kompany and Bayern's performances? I have been overall impressed with Kompany. I think that it's a creative style of football that Bayern wasn't playing under Tuchel, and the results have come. Leading the Bundesliga, I think we're about 5 points clear of second place at the moment. Bayer Leverkusen's down in 4th, I think. I think Borussia's even lower than them. Now there's some concerns. Like, there's been a lot of 1 or 2 goal games against teams that we should have done better against, and I feel like the offense, that the finishing third has been a struggle with Kompany at the helm. I'm a huge fan of the Michael Elise addition. He's looked really good in the squad. There was that bad defeat to Barcelona, but then Barcelona destroyed Real Madrid right after that, so I kind of forgive that a little bit. From Bisc OK4630, what are your favorite animes? Well, I've done an anime top 10 video, but my favorite anime of all time is Cowboy Bebop. Also up there would be Death Note, Trigun, Naruto, Inuyasha, Baki. Trying to think at the moment, drawing a blank. Rurouni Kenshin, Yu Yu Hakusho, a lot of stuff like that. Question from Rai94. What was the first gaming console you ever owned? And what's your top 3 favorite video games ever? Okay, so my first gaming console I ever owned, so when I was born, I'm the youngest of 3 brothers, and my 2 older brothers have a pretty sizable age gap to me. They're quite a bit older. So when I was born, they already had a original Nintendo, a Super Nintendo, and a Sega Genesis. So from a really early age, I was playing those. I played a lot of Legend of Zelda, and I played a lot of the original Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo. I played a lot of Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo. Sega Genesis, there's so many games I played, like Jurassic Park, Aladdin. So many of those Genesis games, at some point they got a Nintendo 64. And I played a lot of Banjo-Kazooie. My top 3 favorite video games ever, that's so hard. My favorite video game ever is Sleeping Dogs. I've said that before. I absolutely love Sleeping Dogs. Top 3, I really like Sleeping Dogs. I think Turtles in Time would have to be in my top 3. Street Fighter 2 would have to be up there. Final Fantasy X. World of Warcraft. I got a World of Warcraft account the day Vanilla launched in 2005, and I played for years and years and years. So many good memories. Dragon Ball Z Budokai. I'm trying to think. Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts 2. Those would be up there. From Culver P. Would you ever consider doing a Lego Builder on your videos? Yes, I have wanted to. I just haven't really found any sets that I want to build. They're either like too small or too expensive, because Lego's super expensive. But it is something I've considered. I've almost purchased Lego sets before to do videos with. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But yeah, that is the final question for this video. Almost an hour in this one. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for all of the questions. It really means so much to me that you guys care enough to keep watching these videos day after day, to engage with the videos and to ask these sorts of questions. I really do appreciate it so much. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this almost every single day. And if you don't want to hear my regular speaking voice, click off the video now, because I got the question, Jack Olis 7050 wanted me to use my real voice for a couple seconds. So I'm giving you guys a warning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Jack, that's my real voice. Like I said, second channel, you'll hear it even more. Alright guys, bye bye.